Have you ever sat across from someone on a first date, heart racing, and thought, am I even ready for this? After years of love, loss, and lessons, dating in midlife can feel like stepping into a foreign world. But maybe, just maybe, the real journey doesn't start with finding someone. It starts with healing yourself first. In midlife, many of us carry invisible weight, memories of past relationships, regrets we never voiced, moments we wish we could rewrite. It's not just about age, it's about the layers of experience that shape how we view love, trust, and ourselves. We've raised families, built careers, made sacrifices, and somewhere along the way, we may have lost touch with who we are outside of those roles. So when the idea of dating resurfaces, whether after a divorce, a long period of loneliness, or simply the desire to feel seen again, it's not as simple as swiping right or saying yes to coffee. There's often fear, self-doubt, and the quiet voice inside asking, do I still have the courage to open my heart? This video is not just about dating again. It's about understanding why healing must come first. Because without it, we're not really opening our hearts to someone new. We're just reopening old wounds. Let me take you back to a quiet evening just a few years ago. I was sitting on my couch, a glass of wine in hand, staring at the television, but not really watching anything. The house was silent, almost painfully so. After my divorce, silence had become my new normal. Friends encouraged me to get back out there. But every time I opened a dating app or tried to imagine myself in a new relationship, a wave of anxiety would rise. It wasn't fear of meeting someone new. It was fear of meeting the same version of myself I had been in my last relationship. I realized I had never really healed. I had rushed through the pain, tried to stay busy, told myself I was fine. But underneath, I was carrying stories. Stories of being overlooked, of giving too much, of shrinking myself to keep the peace. And those stories were shaping how I saw myself now, as someone who wasn't enough, not attractive enough, not exciting enough, not young enough. Then I met Angela, a woman in her late 50s, through a local book club. She was confident, radiant, but more than that, she was at peace with herself. Over tea one afternoon, I asked her how she did it. She smiled and said, I stopped looking for someone to fill the emptiness. I filled it myself. Angela told me about the year she spent not dating at all. She went to therapy. She took art classes. She traveled alone for the first time in her life. And somewhere along the way, she stopped trying to prove her worth to anyone. She simply began to enjoy her own company. Her story struck something deep inside me. I realized I had been looking outward, hoping someone would love me enough to make me feel whole again. But healing doesn't work that way. It isn't something we can outsource. So I began my own journey. I started journaling every morning, even if it was just a few lines. I joined a walking group in my neighborhood. I allowed myself to grieve, really grieve, the marriage I lost and the years I had given to it. Some days were heavy. Some nights I cried without knowing exactly why. But with each small act of self-care, I began to feel more like me again. Not the version of me who was always trying to be perfect, but the one who could sit alone and still feel complete. Healing didn't make me immune to loneliness or fear, but it made me stronger. It made me softer in the right places and firmer in the ones that had been ignored. And most importantly, it made me ready. Not ready to date, but ready to love myself enough to no longer settle for less. The turning point came one Sunday morning. I was out walking by the lake near my home, a path I had taken many times before. But that morning felt different. The sky was soft with clouds, the air crisp with early spring. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't walking to escape anything. I was just there, present, at peace. I sat on a bench by the water, watching the ripples dance, and I felt it, this quiet, steady sense of wholeness. No one had called or texted me that day. No one was waiting for me at home. And still, I didn't feel lonely. I remember placing my hand on my chest, feeling my own heartbeat, and whispering, "You made it." That moment broke something open in me. Not a breakdown, but a breakthrough. For years, I had measured my value by how much I was needed, as a mother, as a partner, as a friend. But in that stillness, I realized I didn't need to be needed to be worthy. I just needed to be me. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present. It wasn't about proving anything. It was about accepting everything. All the heartbreaks, all the wrong turns, all the quiet victories no one else saw. They were all part of me. And they didn't make me broken. They made me real. That was the moment I stopped asking if someone would ever love me again. Instead, I asked myself, can I keep loving myself like this, without conditions? Because real love, the kind that sustains, that heals, that frees, isn't something we earn by fixing ourselves. It's something we access when we embrace ourselves, fully and fiercely. I looked around that lake and saw couples walking hand in hand, kids feeding ducks, an old man reading a newspaper on a folding chair. And instead of feeling like an outsider, I felt connected, not to them, but to life. I had always believed love was something to chase, but it turns out love comes to you when you stop running from yourself. That moment didn't change everything overnight, but it changed me. It gave me a center to return to, a place inside where I was already whole. And from that place, dating, loving, trusting again, it no longer felt like a risk. It felt like a gift, a bonus. Not something I needed to survive, but something I was finally strong enough to welcome on my terms. Healing isn't a straight line, it's more like a spiral. You revisit old wounds, see them from new angles, and slowly learn to release what no longer serves you. If you're wondering where to begin, start small. Start with kindness, not toward others, though that matters too, but toward yourself. Here are the steps that helped me, and maybe they'll help you too. First, make space for your emotions. We live in a world that often tells us to move on or stay strong. But strength isn't about bottling pain. It's about letting it flow without judgment. Cry when you need to. Write it out. Sit in silence and ask, what am I really feeling? You'd be surprised what comes up when you give yourself permission to feel. Second, seek support. Healing doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means knowing when to ask for help. For me, therapy was a lifeline. Having a safe space to untangle my thoughts, to be seen without fear, that was transformative. If therapy isn't accessible to you, consider support groups, online communities, or simply talking to a friend who listens without trying to fix you. Third, reconnect with your body. We carry emotion not just in our minds, but in our bodies. For months, I felt a tightness in my chest, a lump in my throat, heaviness in my shoulders. It wasn't until I started practicing gentle yoga and mindful breathing that I realized how much tension I had stored. You don't have to be an expert. Just breathe, stretch, walk. Dance in your kitchen if the spirit moves you. Let your body know it's safe now. Fourth, rediscover your passions. There's a version of you that existed before heartbreak, before marriage, before children, before loss. Who was that person? What lit you up? For me, it was painting. I hadn't touched a brush in over 20 years. But one rainy afternoon, I picked up a small canvas, and something clicked. It wasn't about being good, it was about being me. And finally, build a supportive environment. Surround yourself with people who see your worth, especially when you forget it yourself. That might mean spending less time with those who drain your energy and more time with those who uplift you. It could mean curating your social media, decluttering your home, or simply setting boundaries that protect your peace. Healing is deeply personal. There's no perfect formula. But every time you choose to honor your needs, every time you say no to what hurts and yes to what heals, you're rebuilding, brick by brick, breath by breath. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to be fully healed to begin again. You just have to be willing. As I look back on the journey, I realized something that would have been hard to believe just a few years ago. Healing wasn't the end of the road. It was the beginning. The beginning of knowing who I truly was, underneath all the roles I had played and the expectations I had carried. The beginning of showing up for myself, not out of duty or guilt, but out of love. And the beginning of finally understanding that love, real love, cannot be received fully until it's first rooted within. When I was younger, I used to think love was something you found, like a treasure waiting at the end of some long search. But now, I know, love is something you build, brick by brick, inside yourself. So that when someone does come along, they are not a missing piece. They are a beautiful addition to a life that is already whole. I no longer look at dating as a race against time. There is no timeline for healing, no deadline for joy, and no expiration date for love. What matters is that you show up for yourself first, that you look in the mirror and see not flaws or failures, but strength, that you hold your own heart with tenderness, knowing it has survived storms and still chooses to beat with hope. It's not always easy. Some days, you'll feel the pull of the past, the ache of old memories, the whispers of doubt. But even on those days, especially on those days, you have the choice to return to yourself, to breathe, to remind yourself that you are not broken. You are becoming wiser, becoming braver, becoming more of who you were always meant to be. And here's the thing. When love does return, because it will in one form or another, you'll be ready. Not desperate, not fearful, but rooted, grounded, open. You'll be able to say, I know who I am, I know what I deserve, and I no longer settle for anything less than truth, presence, and respect. That is the power of healing. It doesn't just prepare you for someone else. It prepares you to meet life with open arms, to welcome the next chapter with confidence, grace, and the quiet certainty that whatever comes, you will be okay. Because you've already come this far. You've already done the hardest part. You've chosen yourself. And that, more than anything else, is where true love begins. If this message touched something in you, if you've ever sat in silence wondering whether you're ready to love again, know that you're not alone. We all carry stories, some filled with joy, others marked by heartbreak. But every story matters, and yours could help someone else feel less alone. So I invite you, share your journey in the comments. Tell us where you are on the path. Are you just beginning to heal? Have you found peace after pain? Or are you still learning how to hold your own heart gently? This space is for you. A space where healing is honored and growth is celebrated. And if you're ready to keep going, I encourage you to watch our next video. It's all about rediscovering joy after loss and building confidence before re-entering the world of dating. Because healing doesn't stop here. It continues, one brave step at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing yourself.